Okay, I've got a quick cast here to actually take you over task 4 again and how to do it. So task 4 is about how to show that you understand about controlling variables when you do your trials. If you don't control your variables and keep everything exactly the same, so that the only thing that's going to affect your marble running down your machine is what you change, everything else has to be exactly the same or it's not a fair test. So when you do change your variables later on, if you might choose taking the friction mats away or doing the angle, but you won't change both. Why? Because when you do your tests, you can only change one thing at a time and then keep everything else exactly the same so you can see if it made a difference. So that's what fair testing is about. Now, how we actually analyze those control variables, I'm going to show you now. This is a picture of what you had in your portfolio, and it said you need to identify the things that you need to control and keep the same. So these are the things that if they change during the test, it's going to make it unfair. So here's an example of a B to A level here so you understand how to do it. First of all, a variable to control definitely is the slope of the board. Some of you will notice that they actually will go backwards and forwards. I've done a little picture here. Just change the color of my ink. Sometimes the board will actually move backwards and forwards like that during the descent because it's a bit wobbly down here on the base. And because of that, it's going to change how the marble runs. So instead of the marble running straight down the machine, it's going to wobble around and sometimes actually go down, sliding along the edge of the machine if it's tipped over to one side. Now, is that going to change how the marble runs each time? Well, of course it is, because every time it's hitting that wall, it's losing some energy. So we don't want it moving around like that. So the next question is, how the heck will you control it? Well, number one, I would tighten up the slit where the board inserts so that it doesn't move. So I'd be putting some things in here to make sure it's nice and tight and it can't move. And one of the other things I always do is say, don't let anyone touch it during the descent, because if they bump it, it's going to change it. That's how I control my variables. Now, there might be other things you think about there. I'm just giving you a few examples. Now, that's what you need to do to get to the first level of this understanding. But the higher level of this, and all of you have the ability to give this a go, is to try and say, well, how is this going to improve my data? How is this going to make it better? How is this going to make sure that my marble is running down the same every time in my machine so that it's as fair a test as possible? Okay? Well, how is it going to improve it? Well, it's going to make sure that your marble isn't accidentally losing energy, okay, as it goes down the descent. And you can actually talk to me about how it's going to affect your marble's energy, because all of them come back to how is it going to affect the energy that the marble has when it spits out the bottom. Because anything that's going to change or make your test unfair is something that's going to affect the energy. Now, if you can tell me what's going to happen to the energy, how's it going to be affected? Is it going to increase the energy or decrease the energy? What's it going to be transformed into or transferred into if this happens? If you can think what's going to actually happen to explain the change in the marble's energy, that's where you get into the B and A level. Okay, so to be able to really explain this to me in detail and tell me how it's going to improve my data, how it's going to improve the amount of energy that the marble comes out with, not improve, but keep it exactly the same every time. If you can explain that in detail, that's the B and A level there. The detail is what brings you up to the A, because the A level on this is that you actually analyze how to improve the accuracy and the reliability of your data. How is it going to make it more accurate? How is it going to make your test the same each time? How will this help improve it? I hope I've said that enough times, because it's really easy to get good marks on this if you put a little bit of effort into it. So there's one example. If you put this example in, I will not give you marks for it, but there's plenty of other things there that you can actually add in for your for filling out this table. I expect to see at least 3 or 4 here that you write about. and each one of them I expect to have a how it will be controlled filled out. And here I expect you to put in as much detail in here as you possibly can about how all those changes will improve your data. Okay, good luck with that, guys. I'll talk to you later.